Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever the fuck you're tuning in. This is an unfiltered, unadulterated, unsupervised edition of the Blitz brought to you by Backyard Sports. We don't have Raul here to corral us two, so there may be some shenanigans that ensue. He's usually our ambassador of Quan, our yin to our yang. But I got Mode with me, man. How you doing, bud?
Listen, mom and dad are out. The kids are in charge. Fucking microwave pizzas. We got popcorn. We got Capri Suns. It's over.
Washing
Raul made
everything down with
huge mistake.
Coca-Cola.
It reminds me of there was the movie back in the day. I don't even remember what the hell it was called, but like the kids took over, and it the one scene it had the chick from Kelly Bundy. Remember
Oh
this?
yeah,
So
yeah.
she was in the movie, and at one point the kid they shoot the plate with the shotgun off the room. He says, "Dishes are done." So this is out of control.
This is our dishes are done episode.
Oh, it's over.
Well, let's jump right into it, man. Week 4, you and Raul had really good weeks. I bounced back. I'm finally over 500 on the season. You led the way at 12-4. Started right out the gate. You had Winners Island, Detroit. Me and Raul were on Green Bay. I gave my reasons, and not one of those fucking reasons proved to be true. Matt LaFleur decided that Aaron Jones was going to be in the lineup, but not actually play. The offense looked discombobulated. Detroit was able to get pressure, shut down the run, any semblance of run that Green Bay tried to put together. And victory lap for you, bud. 34.
Yeah, I mean, more so than picking the Lions, I'm all about picking against Green Bay. That's been my thing. I don't think I picked them once this year yet. So, that's something to be said. There were reasons behind it too. However, I just think that Detroit's pass rushes look really good the last 3 weeks now. I think 17 sacks in 3 games after having 1 in the first 2 weeks. So that's been huge. The offense, I wasn't sure about the Packers and Jordan Love's offense. I really just I wasn't there, and I don't know if I am. I mean, they played Atlanta, they played the Saints, and they played the Bears. So they beat the Bears. They shouldn't have beaten the Saints, and they lost by 1 point. So I just, coming with all that, I wasn't feeling it. Even in Lambeau. And Lambeau was blue for once in a blue fucking moon. I've never seen that before.
I don't know how that happened. I was fucking flabbergasted that happened.
So Green Bay has since issued via their social media that when you sell your tickets, if you're like a season ticket holder, make sure you're trying to sell them in network, meaning to other Green Bay fans, because they're – and, there were more Packers fans there than there were Lions fans. The Lions fans were loud. They showed up and they stuck around. It was great. I loved it. I mean, another primetime win for these young Lions that seem to have promise.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, I'm used to the opposing fans filling the stadium because that's what it's been for 20 years with Washington. You mix a transient fan base with a team that sucks, and that's what you get, which is not what Green Bay is. So it was surprising to see how much blue there was in the stands. Detroit fans starting to travel. MCDC's got them fucking riled up. I like what they've put together. I said it at the beginning of the season. I tried to get cute. I thought that Aaron Jones was going to be able to press the edge against a defense that's very strong inside. But when you have really good pass rushers on the edge, look at what Arizona was able to do against Dallas. How do you neutralize very good edge rushers? You run right at them, and that's what Arizona did against Dallas. I thought that we were going to see similar with Aaron Jones coming back for Green Bay. It didn't happen. And because it didn't happen, Green Bay was never able to set up anything offensively. They looked very disconnected, discombobulated. That pass rush was wreaking havoc. They got all over Jordan Love. The receivers were never able to really get free. Christian Watson had a touchdown, but that was it, right, for the whole fucking day for him. And basically for the whole offense, because those points they got late were kind of garbage time points. But I just look at this and say, This tells me so much more about Detroit in terms of confirming what I thought we could see from them this year based on the way they've drafted the last couple of years, the way they've built from the interior on both sides of the ball, and what MCDC is doing there in terms of being that guy that can rally the troops. This confirms for me that, yes, we're seeing this from Detroit, and this could be an honestly like a 12-13 win NFC North champion this year. So that's what this game really told me, because until you get over the hump against the boogeyman, and that's what Green Bay's been to the NFC North forever, you're still kind of wondering, like, okay, have they gotten to that point? And I know Detroit beat up on Green Bay a bit last year, but it was a different season. This confirmed for me what Detroit's doing is clearly headed towards some really great shit. And I'm almost right now at week 4 at the quarter pole essentially of the season. I'm willing to say that I'm putting Detroit in there in the conversation in the NFC of like probably the 4 teams that I think could win the NFC.
Yeah, no, they've done a lot of good things, and I just putting them against the run aspect. The reason I didn't buy the Aaron Jones thing was because Detroit's been, the best against the run this year in the NFL. I mean, that's not going into this game. Going into this game, I think they were like 5th. They're now the best. They give up 60 yards a game. It's just been really good. The pass against the Seattle game, namely, hurt them quite a bit. But no, they're there. And I just, for all the naysayers with the Jahmyr Gibbs thing, I
feel personally attacked right now.
It's not just you; it's everywhere. So if you drafted Gibbs early in your draft, that's tough, and that's going to suck, and that's going to be like, any other thing from any other season. There's a lot of cases to compare this to that don't have injuries attached to them. Gibbs is fine. The pick is still fine. He's a young dude. He's going to get plenty of run. But what people have to understand about the Lions is, and if you didn't know this already, Jamal Williams scored 17 touchdowns last season. He broke Barry Sanders' rushing touchdown record, not because Jamal Williams is elite, but because the Lions want to run the ball. They want to run the ball a ton.
They want to forward between the guards.
Listen, there's a reason Jared Goff is having success in Detroit. It's because they're putting him in positions to just have an easy life. Yep. They don't want to throw the ball once in a while. This is not a team that's going to stretch the field vertically often. This is a team that wants to hit you with 6 to 8 yards over the middle. They want to run little outs to the sideline, and they want to run the ball. This is what they want to do. Gibbs is fine. Gibbs has had touches all over the place. The week, obviously, without Montgomery, he had like 90 total yards or something. He had 17 carries. But he's gotten opportunities. I mean, just this past week.
That's when his fantasy owners were like, finally. And then Montgomery came back.
But, I mean, he had 4 catches this week.
I know.
Which is where, like, he had 8 rushes, 4 catches. And the catches are where he's going to make his money. He had 7 targets. These catches, Green Bay's defense did a really good job of covering him up when he caught the ball. And, that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. And I think moving forward, he's just going to get more comfortable. Also, the other thing to think about is I know this isn't for the fantasy owners, but they're winning games. So who gives a shit?
Right.
Like he doesn't care. Dan Campbell doesn't care.
Exactly.
This is the formula. And, I mean, David Montgomery is the smash mouth back, and he's going to continue to get the bulk of the carries. That's just the way it's going to be, unless he's hurt. I mean, which we've seen already. So
Yeah, I think there was just an expectation, right? Especially from me. I didn't think that they were going to use Montgomery the way they're using him. And I get it. You went out, you signed a guy who was kind of a bell cow guy in Chicago at times. But I thought the expended capital on Gibbs and the fact that I watched him play at Bama, and he looks like he's the real deal. I thought that Detroit was going to force feed him a little more early in the season, especially for how high they drafted him. But they're fucking 3-1, man. Like, how do you argue with it? It's fun. It's fun to joke about, right? Like, where in the world is Jahmyr Gibbs? Because how many fantasy owners and in transparency, like I don't have him in fantasy. It's just really fun for me. The narrative, it's fun for me. So like I'm not here complaining because I have him in fantasy and I'm not getting any fucking points out of it. But I look at it and say, like, I just expected it. I expected it that he would be the guy to get the ball more often. But who the fuck's gonna argue with 3-1 right now? And they look like one of the 4 best teams in the NFC, right? They're right in the conversation with Philly and Dallas and San Francisco.
7 or 8. I think week 7 or 8, Montgomery's had a lot of carries, and he's a notoriously banged up guy. Not that I want to jinx him, obviously, but give it week 7 or 8. We got J-Mo coming back this week. He's going to stretch the field a little bit. I think Gibbs is really in a great position, obviously, for a rookie back to just ease in and maybe eventually take over. So I've already seen a lot of good things from him. I mean, he's dynamic everywhere he gets the ball.
Yeah. Montgomery's your kneecapper anyway. That's why Dan Campbell likes him so much. But all right, let's shift gears over here to Atlanta, Jacksonville. A little bit of a snooze fest over in London. What are your takeaways from this? Do you feel like Jacksonville kind of righted the ship here, or it's Atlanta?
I don't know if they righted the ship. I hope they have. I'd love to see it coming in this week against the Bills. Everybody'd like to see a good game there. But Atlanta, Gary, you've said it a couple of times, the worst roster in the league, and I'm almost starting to believe that. I think I might have even said it last week. So, one time watching the games, I don't know. My biggest takeaway is, what was Raul doing?
I think he's out on Jacksonville maybe right now. I'm not real sure. I don't know. He likes Bijan, so maybe that was the soft spot. Obviously, being a Longhorn, right? He likes Bijan, but I don't know. All right, Buffalo, Miami, in what started to feel like about halfway through the second quarter, started to feel like both teams were going to replicate what Miami did against Denver. And then the Bills defense kind of figured out some things and really started to take away Devin A-Chain, who had a couple early touchdowns, but also started to take away some of the play action and those kind of deep hitting passes that Tua has been able to hit. And Buffalo created some separation here with a resounding 28-point win against Miami at home. I think you and I both agreed last week that we're, in Buffalo, gave them the edge here. I didn't see a 28-point blowout.
No.
But I wonder, so I saw an interesting stat. So teams that have scored 60 or more points in the NFL are 1-19 in games after they score 60 points. Fucking crazy, right? So I don't know what sort of hangover that creates. It's a weird stat. It's obviously not causation. It's more correlation. But it is interesting. I didn't see this boat race though. Is this from this game and from this game in last week, right, when they blew out Washington as well, and everybody thought that Washington's defense might give them a hard time on offense with Josh Allen, the turnover issues. Are we starting to see Buffalo be the team that we all thought they'd be last year? Because I think we were all kind of in agreement that Buffalo was a Super Bowl contender last year. And then coming into this year, we all kind of said, well, maybe I'm going to be a little more hesitant about Buffalo. Does this look more like the Buffalo team that we expect to see?
I mean, I was more in on Buffalo this year than last year.
That's right. You had the Broncos last year.
Yeah,
Raul and I were in on Buffalo.
Yeah, how'd that work out?
Fucking
So
Bronco.
no, I mean, I'm a little more in on Buffalo this year than I was last year for sure. Two things I think about this game though is, one, Josh Allen has corrected the shit we saw week 1 against the Jets, right? And there's something to be added that the Jets defense is still pretty fucking good. And
yeah, let's not ignore the fact that Sunday night they made Patrick Mahomes look like he was not as good as Zach Wilson for about 2/3 of that game. Like, that was unbelievable what they did against Kansas City.
No, so like imagine that defense with any sort of offensive help, and like you have a problem in the NFL, and a lot of people thought that was going to be so. My thing with Miami is that defense can't do that. That defense was bad. It was ugly. And the Bills capitalized at every turn, which is what a great team is supposed to do. So I didn't necessarily see that. I saw that from Buffalo. Like, I thought Buffalo was going to come out and do exactly what Buffalo did. I didn't see Miami coming out and being as flat as they were on defense. I didn't think the offense was terrible. There's some things to build off of there, but that defense was just horrendous. It's going to be unacceptable moving forward. But yeah, I mean, I think the Bills have kind of cemented themselves as, hey, this is still our division. And fuck, maybe our conference.
Yeah, maybe. It was impressive, right? Because obviously we all know about Miami and scoring 70 the week before against, for all intents and purposes, like Denver's a good defense. They just kind of quit that game, and Denver just had the track stars out there running, or Miami had the track stars running up and down the field. If I'm a Bills fan, like I'm very optimistic after the last 2 weeks, because Miami was all the talk all week leading up to this game that maybe it's Miami's division, maybe it's their year, maybe the Bills' time has passed, their window's closed. The week prior, it was all about that front four from Washington. Is Josh Allen going to be able to avoid mistakes, et cetera, et cetera? They've looked really impressive the last 2 weeks on both sides of the ball, because Sam Howell, leading into that game, was kind of the darling of a lot of analysts around the league, saying, okay, well, maybe Washington's finally found their quarterback, myself included, right? But I'm not on ESPN. And he looked very pedestrian against a Bills defense that does really good on the back end disguising coverages. And then we saw a little bit more of that against Tua this week. So this, I think this last 2 weeks has been a statement for the Bills to say, as you put it, right, this is still our division. And oh, by the way, we still have our eyes on the fact that we think this is our conference, right? So I agree completely.
Well, Josh Allen's still a top probably 3 to 4 quarterback in the NFL. Anyway, you want to shake it out.
The list ain't very long, right?
Well, I mean, we're hard on him when he does bad shit like he did week 1, and we have to be, because we're, as people who talk sports or fans, you have to hold him accountable.
Yeah.
When he has those bad games, and he did a lot of shit that we've bitched about in the past with Josh Allen that's held him back. This game was clean. I mean, this was 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards. Just looked like he was the best player on that field. So that's what we want to see as NFL fans out of Josh Allen.
Absolutely. All right, a little bit of a snooze fest here in terms of the teams on the field. You've got the winless Vikings getting their first win over a Carolina Panthers team that's clearly in rebuild mode with Bryce Young coming back. They need weapons around him, but Minnesota looked bad early, found a way to get a win. They got a defensive touchdown in this game, which isn't like them very much, but Cousins and Jefferson really struggled in this game against a good, not great Carolina defense, but they were on a historic pace. And obviously it's not credible to think that they're going to maintain a 6,000 passing yard and 2,800 receiving yard pace, but they were putting up fucking video game numbers coming into this game. Minnesota gets their first win, but it doesn't look very impressive for them to become the first team to start 0-3 and make the playoffs. Or I think the second team actually to start 0-3 and make the playoffs. This is a team that has won the division, right? They won the division last year and has made the playoffs the last couple of years. Anything to take away from this game?
Yeah. Do you think they're selling Kirk Cousins?
I do. I think he'll be traded at some point this year. I do.
I
think he's going to be traded, and I think they're going to strategically find a way to weasel their way into one of those Arizona picks, because Caleb Williams came out this week and named Minnesota as one of the 5 teams he would play for in the NFL. So
as a fellow NFC North alum, nope. You can keep Kirk. Like, I'm good with it. I don't
blame you. I wouldn't want Caleb in my fucking division.
No, dude. Like, fucking cut it out, man. I mean, listen, I'm already looking down the barrel of thinking that Jordan Love is a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I mean, time's gonna tell with him. However, I do think he has some tools. And as bad as they've been, I still think Justin Fields has some redeeming qualities. So to throw in potentially a Caleb Williams to that,
Jesus Christ,
I don't like it. I mean, I'm not a fan of it. So
And we all know, like, going into this trade with getting Goff, like, he wasn't viewed as the guy for the next 5 years. Maybe he is now, right? The way he's playing.
I think he was by everybody except people who watch football. I think I think Holmes and Dan thought he was the guy.
Maybe they did. Maybe they did. They got it right, though. They got it right.
No, they have. Again, it's about setting him up to. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, there's the adage of, like, if you
they had the first year McVay was in LA when they went to the Super Bowl, they put him in position to succeed.
Right. If you grade a goldfish on its ability to climb a tree, you're never going to be impressed. So, like,
exactly. That's a good one.
Not every. I mean, that's not me. Obviously, I've read that somewhere. But
stealing.
Obviously, every quarterback can't be Peyton Manning. So, like, you have to do things to set your guys up. And, I don't. But, yeah, Caleb Williams, the North, no, we don't want you. The North, Jon Snow, we don't want you in the North. Come on, bud. Get out of here.
Denver, Chicago, the fucking slap fight of the week. We all got it right. We had it wrong for about 3.5 quarters. And then Chicago laid whatever egg they wanted to lay. They laid a fucking ostrich egg, letting the Broncos back in this game. Broncos lost their starting running back in this game. Shout out to my dynasty fantasy team. Javonte Williams, 2 years in a row, has fucking disappointed. But I hope for health for him in all seriousness. But anything to take away from this game? What is
no?
You may end up with Caleb in the division, and it might not be Minnesota because Chicago's that bad.
Listen, we're getting Caleb in the division no matter what. Right. So at this point, it's just going to happen. Yeah. No, Justin Fields at one point was like, I don't even know. He was pitching a 25 for 25 with 3 touchdowns game, and then just fucking. Just it blew. I mean, I picked up Russell Wilson in a pinch this week because I had Jordan Love, who was my backup, and he played on Thursday, and Deshaun Watson's my quarterback. So I was kind of in a scramble. So I ended up with Wilson, and it worked out. But, I was this close to picking up C.J. Stroud, and I wish I had instead.
Yeah.
But, Denver's bad. The Bears are bad. I don't know.
Speaking of Deshaun Watson, the Deshaun Watson-less Cleveland Browns got nothing going against Baltimore. And I know that if Deshaun Watson wasn't playing, I would have picked Baltimore just because of what's behind him in Cleveland. I like DTR, but you're asking a guy who's never been prepared to start a game in his rookie season against Baltimore, who, yes, it's not the Ray Lewis Ravens defense, but they still bring the heat defensively. Lamar Jackson, though, I think is the big takeaway from this. He played his best game of the season. He'd looked like lukewarm dog shit the first 3 weeks of the year. He looked really good this weekend against a very good Cleveland defense, right? No Deshaun Watson, but that defense is still Cleveland's defense, and he played a very good game, put up 28 points. You have any other takeaways? You want to talk about Lamar and kind of what he did?
No. Just no Watson, no Nick Chubb. That's tough for a team who plays good defense. And, congrats to Lamar finally, after 3 weeks having a semi-productive game. I don't even want to call it a good game. I mean, I think he was okay.
Comparatively, right? That's the crazy part. We're talking about
comparatively speaking, he was
former MVP.
Yeah, comparatively speaking, he was fucking early 90s Joe Montana, but
yeah. Houston, Pittsburgh, and is it time? Is it time to start believing in Houston in a very gettable AFC South? We talked about if Jacksonville stumbled, that this was a very gettable AFC South for two teams starting rookies, or Tennessee if they decide they're going to fucking come out of whatever funk they've been in. Houston, is this the best team in the AFC South?
I mean, they drafted the best quarterback in this draft. I mean, I like Richardson. I think Richardson is a freak, but C.J. Stroud is the best quarterback that came out of this. Bryce? No, I don't. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure what went on there, honestly. If I'm thinking back, like, You have a small dude who's not terribly great at anything. Richardson, Stroud, I mean, even look, we can even consider Levis here, but I just think CJ Stroud looks like a pretty good NFL quarterback. Not great, but he's young.
You see it, though. You see it.
No,
he's got a chance to grow into it, man.
There's flashes, and this team doesn't. Listen, this team doesn't give up. And who would have thought a D'Amico Ryans run team would play defense?
Yeah, go fucking figure, right?
He
coached the best defense in the NFL for 3 years in San Francisco. Oh my God, Houston's playing good defense. Listen, this start by Houston has confirmed to me I was right last year when I was fucking saying fire Ron and hire D'Amico. I said it. How many times last year did I say it? I must have said it fucking a dozen times on this show.
I mean, at least 31 times.
Probably, honestly. And here we are, right? D'Amico's fucking winning games with not a great roster. They've got their quarterback, right? And once you figure that position out, everything else is just building around him, right? But he's taken what was a bad defense last year. They were a really bad defense last year, and they didn't overhaul the defense. They drafted a little bit, couple of pieces in, but they didn't overhaul the defense. And they look like a really, really good defense this year, probably in the top half of the league, maybe even a top 10 defense by the end of the season, right? Statistically speaking. But I want to talk a little more about the offense. Did you put 30 points up against maybe the best defense in the league? They're in the conversation, right? I'm not saying they're better than San Francisco. Right. I am saying that they're in the conversation of best defenses in the league. And you put up 30 on them.
So they, you know, I'm going to tell you, I watched this game with a couple of Steelers fans, and the things I was generically saying about their defense being good, and they were telling me from a standpoint of watching the games that their defense wasn't good at, I quickly realized they were right and I was wrong. Like,
interesting.
So they have Watt, obviously,
Jimbo,
right?
Jimbo, one of them.
Jimbo was one of them. They rushed the ball very well. They cover like shit. Their secondary is fucking awful.
Their pass rush covers up a lot with their secondary.
And their run defense is not good either. They're literally like so good at rushing the passer that we think they're good. No, I'm being serious.
You might be right, man. You might be right now that I think about it, because Cleveland ran the ball against them, even though they struggled to put up points.
They're like I had 3 Steelers fans, right? And this is what's going to go down.
Yeah. And
I'm like amazed by being like, no, your defense is pretty good. And they're like, no, it's not. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, they're a nightmare. They're like, no, TJ Watt's a nightmare. And I'm watching it. I'm like, holy fucking shit. They can't. It's like the Mora interview. Can't stop the run. They can't stop. Every time we get the ball, they go get points. Like, can't playoffs. No,
I hope we win again.
They are bad at things you have to be good at to play defense. They're just so overwhelmingly good at rushing the passer.
That's fair. You know, I take back what I said. If
I would have never known.
Yeah. No. It takes. Listen, I've listened to people tell me about Washington. Oh, they've got this, and I retort with it. I can sympathize with Jim and friends. Honestly, I watch them, I see them, and I can tell you what their faults are, and I get it. And I'm going to stop saying that Pittsburgh has one of the best defenses in the NFL.
No, they have a scary defense. They have a defense that will
a scary defense for sure.
They'll like derail a train from the tracks.
I'm going to stop.
But like they can't stop SpongeBob from running down the field.
They can't stop Forrest.
They're weird. It's a weird defense. Like it's.
I get it. It makes total sense. Sometimes it does take a fan to kind of point those things out. All right, Rams, Indy. You were solo on this one, on loser island here with Indy, and honestly, this was right like flip a coin. I didn't know what to expect, and of course, right. So I'm going to talk about this from a fantasy perspective because I have Kyron Williams on one of the teams that I have in your yearly league. And I sat him the week prior, I started him the week prior against a bad rush defense. They were 31st in the league coming into that game. I know, small sample size, but McVay refused to run it, and we were talking about it in the group chat. Like, what is Sean McVay doing, right? So this week, I'm like, okay, Indianapolis is ranked in the top 5 against the run. They were 5th in the league against the run coming into this week. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit Kyren Williams. As I put him on my bench, I said in my fucking head, I know Sean McVay is going to give him the ball fucking 20 times. He's going to have fucking 25 fantasy points. What did he do? Gave him the ball 25 times, had 28 fantasy points.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, I'm done venting. This was a weird kind of coin flip game. Two teams that one's on the way up. The other one's trying to hold on to kind of the shell of what they once were. What are your takeaways from this? I thought Anthony Richardson played okay against a pretty solid interior defense.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I picked the Colts because I feel like the Rams have been shaky, like a good shaky, because, you know, everybody thought they were going to be terrible. And then the Colts have been, I don't know. I don't even know how I put the Colts on a different platform, but the Colts have been way better than we've expected. And then you get Richardson, and he was a little banged up, and now it's like, let's see it. But, like, I think the Rams are a semi-capable team. And you got Puka Nacua is fucking nuts.
9 catches. He's back this week.
Listen, Matt Stafford picks on a wide receiver like no other.
I saw that stat this week, man. Nacua is on a better pace than Calvin Johnson or Cooper Kupp through 4 games.
Yeah. And what do those 3 wide receivers have in common?
Matt Stafford.
Matt Stafford. It's Nacua, Cooper, Kelvin through 4 games. That's the cream of the crop.
Yep.
And they've all had that's a Matt. Listen, Matt Stafford throws to – it's not even to say he throws to one guy, but like he finds that target and he just beats the shit out of it. Yep. And currently that's Puka. I mean, we're going to see with Kupp. I mean, we keep getting the teaser, but, yeah, I think both of these teams are ahead of schedule as far as what we thought they were going to be. I think the Colts are great for the future. I think the Rams can make playoffs.
I think you're right.
And I think
it's a bad NFC, man. It's a bad NFC.
It's a bad NFC, and it's like other than San Fran, I don't know what that division has to offer. I mean, Seattle is good, maybe.
They're kind of Jekyll and Hyde, though.
Arizona is a good,
scrappy,
bad team. Yeah. Right, they're scrappy. Are they like? And the Rams are scrappy too. So if I'm putting 2 scrappy teams together, like I'm going to trust the team with Stafford and Aaron Donald. I'm
going to take the one with Stafford and that man on the other side.
sneaky team that could maybe win 10 games. I don't know. It's crazy to think, but
9 probably gets you in too, right? Like in this bad NFC, 9 might get you in, honestly, as a wild card. No, I'm with you. The last thing I want to close out with is. Puka Nacua is going to go down as my biggest fantasy whiff in the entire time I've been playing fantasy sports. He's my biggest whiff because I watched their second preseason game, and I listened to how much from the booth they were talking about how the Rams coaching staff raved about Puka Nacua, yada yada yada, and of course. I'm that fucking dipshit junkie watching a fucking Rams preseason game on NFL Network in the middle of fucking August. But I knew going into the draft, like Puka Nacua was going to be a guy that the Rams were going to rely on. However, in our Dynasty League especially, I have Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp wasn't supposed to miss time to start the season. Puka was supposed to be 4th on the fucking depth chart. So I was like, nope, I'm not going to draft him. And, of course, he goes off in week 1, and I'm fucking, like, too far down on the waiver wire. If you were below 1, you didn't get him. So he is, I think he's going to be able to sustain this because they talked about how good a route runner he is, how good his hands are, how good his catch radius is. And I watched him at BYU doing a lot of these same things. He's going to go down as my biggest fantasy whiff, maybe in my entire history of any sport, not just fantasy football. Any sport, a guy I didn't draft that I should have drafted because I knew about him. And that's what pisses me off the most about the entire fucking thing.
Listen, I might not make you feel better, but I'm gonna help a little bit. Is I did have the fantasy priority, and I think we talked about it the first week too. I said that like, oh, you're like I switched it from Nakua. I had him in the sites, and I was one, and I switched to I don't even want to fucking say it. I switched to Kendrick Bourne. So I have him.
Who did have a good first week.
Yeah, I don't think he's on my team anymore, actually. I think
I dropped him in one league. I picked him up in one league, and I've dropped him.
I was so fucking confident. And I remember telling you about it on the show. I was like, if you don't have priority, you're done because I'm ahead of you. Yeah, nope. Fuck me too.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah.
His name was a little too weird for me. There's too much sauce there.
Yeah. No, that one I'm gonna kick myself in the ass for a long time as I watch him on I think it's I forget who picked him up, but as I watch him dominate this dynasty league for the next fucking 4 years, it's gonna piss me the fuck off.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Anyway, onward and upward. Tampa Bay, New Orleans. You were the only one that had confidence in the Baker Mayfield-led Buccaneers. I should eat a little crow on this because I've been talking about Baker Mayfield as a capable, not great, but capable quarterback basically his entire time in the league, and I sold him out for the Saints. I like the Saints defense, but that Saints offense is a fucking disaster show. Even with Derek Carr in town, who ended up playing despite getting injured last week, we thought maybe it'd be Jameis. Tampa Bay is maybe the class of this division, you think?
I think the Saints defense is kind of losing a little bit of their edge, right? I mean, it's they give up the collapse to Green Bay, which was a lot of points in a little time. And now they just kind of casually let Baker Mayfield and the Bucs, who are also supposed to be a defensively strong, not quite offensively strong team, just put up fucking 26 on them. So, yeah. And without an offense, like you said, I don't know if it gets it done. Alvin Kamara was back. That's a good sign for them. I don't think this team is good enough. I don't think Derek Carr is good enough. I certainly don't think Jameis Winston's good enough. There's not a lot to like with the Saints, if you ask me, other than the defense, which has kind of let us down the last couple of weeks. So I'm out. I think I'm out on the Saints.
Yeah, I actually I had that thought as I was kind of putting together this week's picks. Like, I picked New Orleans to win their division because of the weak schedule that they had and the defense. And both of those things have let me down in consecutive weeks. Basically, you're up 17-0 to start the fourth quarter in any NFL game. You should win that game,
right.
Especially against a Green Bay team that doesn't have Aaron Jones and doesn't have one of the best left tackles in all of football. You should not let that team come back on your defense, which prides itself on being able to rush the passer. So, for sure, I think I'm with you. I'm out. I'm on the side of I do think that maybe Tampa Bay is the class of this division. It's a bad division, so let's not get it confused with like me saying that Tampa Bay is like the class of the NFC. But they are, I think, right now, especially the class of the NFC South.
And they're going to play our Texans next week.
Yeah.
Our Texans. Get used to saying that. Our Texans.
They are. Washington, Philly. This ended up closer than especially you thought, right? Because you had Philly minus 9.5 as a lock for you. And I didn't think you were crazy. The way Washington played the week before, I didn't have a lot of confidence coming into this game. In the back of my mind, though, I'll be transparent. In the back of my mind, I was like, this is probably one of those weeks that, like, Washington gets my hopes up because they play a good team really tough, because that's what they fucking do. And then they're going to come out Thursday night and play like shit against Chicago, right? So we'll see Thursday night, but they did play really well against Philly. Before I pass it your way, because this was your lock, I want to say a couple of things. One, Washington should have won this game by 10 points. And the way this team came out in the second half shows me everything that I've been bitching about for fucking 5 years now with Ron Rivera. This team cannot leave the locker room to begin a game or at the half prepared to compete with the other team. You go from dominating Philly. That wasn't a close first half. The only reason the score was close is because Jack Del Rio did what Jack Del Rio does at the end of halves and goes into this weird shell. I'm just going to take all my DBs and put them in the stands defense and gives up 3 points when we shouldn't have given up 3 points. And then we come out of the locker room and it's like, where the fuck did you leave the Commanders at halftime? Because Philly comes out and just does whatever they want. Now, Philly's a good team. I'm not at all going to disparage that. But what did you do at halftime? Did you literally go in there and just say, yep, we're going to rest on our laurels. Philly's not going to make any adjustments. We're going to win this game. That's not what good coaches do. You come out in the second half, flat as a fucking 2x4, and Philly comes back, and you're playing desperation football down the stretch when, in fact, you should have stood on their necks and put them fucking away. The Philly fans, who are maybe the most rabid fans in the NFL, right? They're in the conversation of the most rabid fucking fan base in the NFL, was silent. Silent. The serious crew, because my daughter had a soccer game, I was listening to it on the radio. The serious crew was commenting how quiet it was in the stadium, and they were talking with low voices on the broadcast because it was so quiet in the background. And then you come out in the second half flat as fuck. Ron has to go. This team is going to win just enough games that this new ownership's group's going to say probably, oh, we're going to keep him around, and then I got to deal with this motherfucker for another year. But this is a microcosm. This game was a microcosm of Washington. There's promise in the first half, let down after halftime, and then at the end of the game, they do just enough to make you think, hey, maybe this is a good team, and then we go lose in overtime.
You need them to run the gauntlet right now. Like, if you want that to happen, they just need to lose. They need a 2-win season.
This is our tough stretch after Chicago.
Yeah, but they're going to win a game. They need a 2-win season. They're winning a game somewhere. I mean, they're winning a game this week.
They're probably going to win 8.
Right. We're going to get that Thursday game. They're going to win that game. Right, they're going to win 8. And then there's going to be no reason to fucking fire John Fox, Ron Rivera. We're not going to fire him. And now you're fucking stuck. So I agree with what you said. That first half, that was more than 17-10. That was probably like 24-7. And then they come out and they give up 11 in the third with nothing to respond with. And then now we're catching up.
Yep.
And now we have to go to OT.
Yep.
And they're not going to win in OT. That's not the way that fucking works. And you know, Philly has some problems. I think for the flip side, we've seen it. You said
they're not the boogeyman.
They're not as bulletproof as they were. Excuse me, as they were. Jalen Hurts is not as bulletproof as he was. You know, it's going to be interesting. Very.
They're still 4-0, right? We can't ignore that. They're still 4-0.
Listen. I talked shit. I didn't talk shit, but I remember saying last year that I didn't know how prepared they'd be for the playoffs because they had an easy schedule. Yep. And then they went to the fucking Super Bowl. So I don't know what I'm.
He has to win the Super Bowl too. Yeah, no, they're not the boogeyman this year. I don't know who is in the NFC right now though. San Francisco. They have to be, but I'm waiting for like the handful of pins to drop with that team because they end up with like 9 important guys on IR every year. I'm just waiting for that to happen. Aaron, fuck you. Fuck you and your Cowboys.
I don't know, man. San Fran, I feel like we're going to get into San Fran here, but Jesus, they look good.
Yeah. We'll talk about it. All right, onward to Cincinnati. And Raul nailed this. He seems to have gotten off the fucking Joe Burrow bandwagon faster than I have. 24-point loss to the Titans. I know it was in Tennessee, but woof. Derrick Henry, let's not get it twisted. Derrick Henry looked like the old Derrick Henry at times this past weekend. Really took it to the Cincinnati defense. But where's the offense with the Bengals?
They don't exist. Like, I don't
put them on a milk carton, man.
I don't know what's going on, and I'm not a Bengals fan, but I'm begging I'm begging for something here, right?
They're exciting to watch, right? Even if you're not a Bengals fan, when they're at their best, they're exciting to watch.
I want to see this team do well. We talked about Burrow not looking good last week with that knee, that leg, whatever the hell's going on. He specifically had trouble backing up in the pocket. It looked that way again this week. So that's that. We get nothing. We have probably the best receiving core in the NFL, right? With Chase, Higgins, and Boyd. And then you have Joe Mixon, who's no schlub running the ball.
Right.
I don't get it. They don't get it. They seem as shell-shocked as we are about it. And, in the meantime, teams are just picking up wins like the Titans, who everybody left for dead on the side of the road.
Yeah, who are right now tied for first in that division.
Except Raul.
Yeah, Raul nailed it.
Hey.
Yeah, it is interesting. You mentioned it, right? It even is like we're shell-shocked, but what's even more kind of alarming is how much Zach Taylor has just said, yeah, we're going to struggle until Joe Burrow's healthy, right? Like, we know we're limited, but he's going to play, and we just know that we're going to be limited on offense. Like, that's scary. I will say this, right? Like, their other option is Jake Browning. Like, do you know who Jake Browning is? Do you know where he played in college? Do you know anything about him? No, nobody does. Jake Browning's own family forgot he played in the NFL. So that's their next option? It's not good. It's not good, man.
I think I drank paper bag beers with that guy one time in like an alley. So,
some Schlitz in a paper bag. Oh, man. Chargers Raiders, and this looked like it was going to be the Chargers making a statement, honestly. Actually, I'm going to get to a couple of comments. Yeah, Burrow got the dead man's chest. He got paid, and suddenly he's struggling. We saw Lamar struggle the first 3 weeks. He got paid. There's something to that. There's something to be said about that. Herbert was fucking 0-2
I don't know if I buy that with Burrow, though.
I don't either, but I think it's the calf mostly, but he got paid and the calf's fucked up. Maybe it's the curse.
It's the calf. It's a combination of the calf and the offensive line still doesn't fucking block.
They've invested so much capital into that offensive line.
And it doesn't work. I mean, that's like the Flex Seal guy with like the screen door on the fucking boat in the pond. You knew that, like, I saw him spraying it, but there's no way that shit held up. If they cut to like 18 seconds later, it was Jason Voorhees down there. Like,
they filmed just long enough so the water didn't quite sink the boat.
Right. Nobody believed the fucking can of hairspray worked.
Chargers Raiders. This started out looking like the Chargers were going to make a statement after getting their first win against Minnesota last week. They jumped out to a really big lead early, and then in true Brandon Staley fashion, they tried to give it away late. Held on, 24-17, division win, get to 2-2. Does this game help you in terms of maybe belief in the Chargers, or at least thinking that they've got some potential to be successful this year, or is this just going to be same old Chargers?
I think the Raiders are bad, so no. Another week without Eckler, and that's big. But they still have Staley as coach. I think, it would be nice while Eckler is on the, mend here to maybe get a chance to lose a couple of games so they can think about firing Staley. But I don't know if they're going to do that. Like, he seems like one of these weirdly bulletproof guys. And you always have a couple of
man. You cut one head off and he grows two more.
Like, why do we have – like, I don't get it. We've all seen the fucking story over and over again. You get these guys that can't do right, but at the same time, it's like, no, leave them alone.
They don't do wrong enough.
You get these coaches that have no fucking help on their team, and they get a short leash, but you get these guys that have everything in the fucking world. Khalil Mack,
6 sacks.
6 sacks. It's crazy. I shit you not, Gary. I'm at the bar watching the game, right? And we're talking about the Bears Denver game. And I got a dude asking me, he's like, what the fuck happened to Khalil Mack? And I'm like, God, he's not on the Bears anymore.
Right.
He's on the Chargers. He's like, yeah, the guy was so good, before when he was on the Raiders. He went to the Bears. He kind of died. And I was like, no, he's been pretty okay. But you're right. He went from being one of the top defensive linemen in the league to kind of falling into the pack. And then I get home and I'm looking, I'm like, this motherfucker had 6 sacks. So I'm immediately texting the same guy. I'm like, Khalil Mack, we were just talking about he had 6 sacks. So it's crazy how that works. But yeah, I just talk about having fucking everything. I mean, you have everything going for you if you're the Chargers, in my opinion.
And you still
even with Mike being hurt. Keenan Allen looks like Keenan Allen all of a sudden.
Dude, he looks like fucking 25-year-old Keenan Allen.
Dude, guy looks great. You still got Palmer on that offense.
He made the joke this offseason. Speaking of that, real quick, he had an interview before week 1. He did an interview, and they were asking him, like, how's the new look offense going to look? Because they drafted this kid named Quentin Johnston out of who's a true deep ball threat, like 4-3, take the top off the defense guy. And Keenan's like, yeah, we got Mike Williams, who's a deep threat. We got Josh Palmer, who's a deep threat. We got Quentin Johnston, who's a deep threat. So I spent a lot of time this offseason working on being a deep threat. It worked.
He's throwing the ball.
Throwing touchdowns. He's doing everything, man.
You have everything. And you have Herbert. You have everything. Yeah. You have fucking Mac and Bosa. You have everything on this team except the ability to fucking coach.
Yep.
And it drives me nuts.
Bananas.
If that team has a capable head coach, they're winning every week. Yeah. And we're not even having this conversation. If they have Ron Rivera.
Hey. If they have Ron Rivera, they're 0-4.
Would you trade Rivera for Staley?
No.
Okay.
I don't want either of them, though.
But would you trade?
No.
Okay. One's worse than the other.
Yes, that's fair.
I mean, one's Black Forest ham, the other's olive loaf.
Fair point. Nobody likes olive loaf.
No.
New England, Dallas, and Raul's not here to give me the smoke. I'll give myself the smoke. I watched what Carolina did to Dallas, and I looked at this New England roster and this New England approach to football, and I said, New England has a better running back. New England has a better defense. New England has a better game manager at quarterback, and New England has a better head coach. And I thought New England's going to take that game plan that Arizona put together, and they're going to do it better. What I didn't account for was 2 defensive touchdowns and 4 total turnovers, I believe it was. Mac Jones got benched. I didn't plan for those. I got my dick beat in. The Patriots got their dick beat in. It's the worst loss Bill Belichick's ever suffered as a head coach, not just with New England, but going back to his days with Cleveland. They got summarily smacked around at Gillette, too.
Yeah.
Or no, this was in Dallas. This was in Dallas, right? Yeah.
And here I was over here playing against Dallas's fucking defense and fantasy. So it was a time party. So I'm officially in the franchise, the Dynasty League. I am first in points. I'm in 4th place at 2-2.
I know.
It's a really good time. I'm having fun. I like it a lot.
Tough. Fucking
the fucking defense was the best player on the team.
I know, that's crazy. T. Higgins got the dropsies last week too when you needed fucking 9 points. You needed 9 points from him to beat me, and he fucking did nothing.
And he did nothing this week. He sucks.
He got hurt this week.
Guy's bad. Yeah, he's bad.
Yeah.
Hate him.
San Francisco, Arizona. This was a weird game. This was a very much like an accordion effect kind of game where San Francisco ran out to a lead. Arizona came back, and everybody, and I know myself, I was like, what's San Francisco doing? And then they ran away and hid 35-16 at the end of the day. Let's talk San Francisco, though. Is this the most complete team in football?
This is the best team I've seen in a couple of years, I think. I mean, I thought they were the best team last year.
Yeah.
But they're better. Christian McCaffrey is on his shit. I mean, this is fucking 2002, 50 Cent get rich or die trying. This is Nas Ether. This is Nirvana Nevermind. This is fucking masterpiece. Like, this dude is so fucking good.
Yeah.
And now he's not on Carolina.
Right.
And it's out of control. And they can hit you from that, but they still have Deebo Samuel. They still have Brandon Ayuk. They still have George Kittle. They still have one of the most punishing fucking defenses out there. They have a good offensive line, and they're too good. If this team doesn't win the Super Bowl, it's a letdown. You think, Aaron?
I don't think they'd be done. I'm going to disagree with they're done, but it's a huge, huge loss.
It is a huge. When you have Christian McCaffrey, it's always a huge loss. But I watched them run fucking Sanford Radio Shack a bunch of years and be fine.
Maybe as far as Super Bowl, but I still think that they're capable of getting there without him. It's not. I'm not picking them as my favorite without him because that's how big of a loss a guy like McCaffrey is. But they're still in the conversation.
I agree with
They're still in the conversation.
I'm not saying they can't do it.
That defense is the real deal. Jesus Christ. They are fucking. You said Pittsburgh's defense is scary. San Francisco's defense is scary, strong, athletic, tough, kill you in the trenches, like every superlative. They're good at all three levels.
Yeah.
All three levels.
Yeah, team's tough, man. It's not even fair. And I saw some shit. Somebody's going to correct me because I didn't look this up, but a Niners fan told me today, actually, that they're under the cap by like $20 million. How the fuck is that possible?
Yeah. They don't have any quarterback salaries on their roster.
Understandable, but they have like 100 defensive contracts that got to be crazy.
They paid 3 guys on their defense.
Really? Yeah. That's it.
That's it. They are so fucking frugal.
Debo's making crazy money, right?
They've paid Debo. They've paid Kittle. They've paid Armstead, Bosa, and Warner. I think those are the big.
So they're going to be a team in 2 years.
McCaffrey, obviously, with his huge contract as well. But what's that?
So in 2 years they're going to be fucked. They're bankrupt in 2 years.
Yeah, because once Purdy comes due, if they're looking at their cap space is 41 fucking million, bro.
Dude, the guy told me earlier 27 or 26 or something, and I thought that was crazy. 40.
So they're top 51. So their total liabilities is 196.
I mean, we may as well
top 51 is the only thing that counts against the cap. They're 41 million under. With their top cap liabilities, they're right about the league average, but a lot of that doesn't count against the cap, just the way it's fucking structured. Dude, the salary cap is it's not a thing. Trent Williams as well, but he actually what's crazy with Trent Williams is that he has a big cap number, but most of it's bonus, so they could get out of it pretty easily. So Williams, Armstead, Bosa, Kittle, Warner, Debo are the ones that they've paid at a good number. Then they've got like a handful of guys that are around 5 or 6. So I forgot about Williams as well, but even McCaffrey's big his big cap hits don't kick in until next year. But he did get paid, but they've deferred a lot of his down the road to next year.
So since he's struggling, it makes sense that they just trade them Joe Burrow.
Yeah, sure.
Just be done with it.
Yeah, just trade for Joe Burrow.
I mean, they can afford everyone.
They could. Absolutely. They are super frugal. I don't think John Lynch gets enough credit there, the way that he's been able to do this. They've got the people that go super unsung, though. Washington used to have a really good cap guy who knew like the ins and outs of the cap. That's how Washington used to go out and just sign everybody, and they were able to stay under the cap. It never worked out because they just went out and built fucking dream teams. But San Fran has a guy who learned under that guy in Washington, who's now running the cap out in San Francisco.
And they built a dream team.
They have a dream team that actually wins.
This is ridiculous.
It's wild. It's wild. 41 million. I didn't expect to read that number. I know they're under the cap. I did not know that they're 41 under with their top 51 salaries.
This dude I work with was telling me like they're 20 some under the cap, and I was like, "You're fucking on crack, dude. There's no way."
They're 20.
I had no actual idea.
Number, yeah, when you look at the raw number, they are 21 under, but their cap is actually 41.
How the fuck does that happen?
It's fucking wild, dude.
I want an investigation, full scale, right now. I want fucking the New England Patriots scale investigation on this fucking franchise.
Think about this though. Now. So the NFL has a rule in place too that you carry cap space over. So when McCaffrey's salary kicks in and when they've got to pay Brock Purdy, they're going to have carryover cap that if they front load. So they have McCaffrey structured where the next couple of years he's got big hits. If they pay Purdy, because he was such a late draft pick, he's going to come due for the end of his rookie contract earlier. If they pay him and they front load it, they're going to be able to essentially, quote unquote, defer a ton of that money because they've got cap space that carries over. So over the course of 3 years, you have to average 98% of the salary cap spent. So a lot of teams will, like when they've got the opportunity under rookie quarterbacks, they'll pay these veterans, but stay under the cap and defer a lot of that down the road until they've got to pay their rookie quarterback. And then they use that to front load the contract with their rookie quarterbacks. And they get a lot of that guaranteed money out the way early because that's where the big cap hit comes from, is like the salary plus your guaranteed money is huge on dead money, especially. San Fran, think about that. They're going to carry over a big fucking number over the next few years. And they've got to pay Purdy, and they might not even end up taking a hit.
2030 champs.
Yeah.
May as well.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Moving on to another team that's done a lot of cap fucking gymnastics to pay Mahomes and Kelsey and Chris Jones. Kansas City, who survived against the Zach Wilson-led New York Jets. So I'm going to put it this way, and then I want to get your thoughts. So watching this game, I was talking in another group of friends who are Bills fans who love to bag on the Jets, right? And about halfway through the second quarter, it was all fun and games. Zach Wilson blows, blah, 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 right? Well, they get the turnover against Kansas City in the middle of the second quarter, and it like flipped a switch. And like Mahomes and Zach Wilson, it seems, kind of switched bodies. Because from that point forward, Mahomes looked very pedestrian. And Zach Wilson, Chris Collinsworth couldn't stop gushing on the broadcast about the fact that it looked like Zach Wilson was finally figuring out this offense and being able to run this offense and looked like he was comfortable and figuring out Nathaniel Hackett and yada, yada, yada. If the Jets have a quarterback, man, you mentioned it briefly earlier, but I want you to expand on it here. What does that mean for the rest of the AFC if this Jets defense has a quarterback on the other side of the ball?
I mean, they don't, so I'm not going to be like too
you won't even indulge my hypothetical?
No, I will, but I don't think they do. I don't believe in Zach Wilson. I've sang the praises of KC's defense this year. I think they're much improved. I thought even against the Lions week 1 without Jones, they were very much improved. Looks like a much different unit. I don't know. It's a weird game. I think the Jets are good at controlling the tempo sometimes with their defense. And, Zach put together a good game, man. I mean, what was he like? Fucking 245, 2 touchdowns. I'm looking at it right now. Alan Lazard showed up. Listen, I don't know. What I do know is fucking Taylor Swift was in the building, baby. Everybody goes crazy. No, just fucking kidding. I don't care. So Mahomes, he looked a little slow. Kelsey looks a little slow. This offense looks a little slow. That's probably the best way to describe them. Outside of maybe Pachenko, who looked good. I don't know what to say for the Chiefs. I picked them to win the Super Bowl, I think, this year.
I love that meme.
He was. I saw it. Fucking
Cougar
Jason's
hunter.
So, I don't know. I don't know what to say about this Chiefs team as a whole because I don't think they have the weapons to do it. Even with Kelsey healthy, the offensive weapons aren't there. However, this happens every year. Yeah. And we say these things every year, and then the rest of the division isn't
on the last day of the year.
Right. And it's just I don't know. However, for the Jets, the defense is good.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Lethal almost. They were supposed to have Aaron Rodgers. They don't have Aaron Rodgers now. They dropped some games. They're 1-3. They've got to go out there. They've got to play the Bills. They've got to play the Bills one time more. They got to play the Dolphins twice. They get New England twice. Things could slip fast, but I have to feel like there's some promise there. If you're the Jets, you have to feel like you can go win some games now, right? Because you've beaten the Bills. You've almost beaten, nearly like that last play, the pass interference against Sauce Gardner.
Yep.
That play, you have to feel.
By the way,
I thought it was.
Yeah?
I thought it absolutely was. I thought he hugged him.
Okay.
This is what it is. You do
it.
We can talk about that. Obviously, I thought it was. I thought he was on him. I didn't think it was crazy. I don't think he tackled him.
I just thought I don't want to officiate it that tight in that crucial of a situation. That's all.
I don't, and I do though, because
I see the whole. He had the left arm. He had the left arm under the shoulder pad. If you're gonna argue that it is, I don't have a strong argument against. I think my biggest thing is late in games. I've seen them let much worse go. Let's just be consistent. Maybe that's my biggest thing. Let's just be consistent. Right?
No, and I agree with that. I don't want to be to a point where I've seen less or I've seen worse. I want to be to a point where do I think that's pass? I thought that was pass interference. I thought he was on him. I thought he hit his arm under him. Feel that's what I saw. Maybe Sauce is a great defensive player.
Yeah,
but that's what I saw. And people hate it because it's Mahomes, and we just saw this in the Super Bowl, and people didn't like it then. We're not going to like it now, but
the Jets learned what it's like to play against the darling of the league.
Well, Swifty was there.
Swifty was in the building.
We got T Swift in the building.
So I've been speculating.
And she had huge
speculating to anybody that'll listen that this is an arranged relationship. The NFL wanted more eyes on the game, so they went and got the most popular female in the world to date a player from the most popular franchise in the NFL.
Dudes don't care about Taylor Swift. What we do care about is Wolverine was there.
Yeah, exactly. He was in the building. Oh, shit. All right. Let's move on to our final game of the week. Big old fucking snooze fest. Seattle and the Giants. And so I saw some dissension on Twitter from some real big Giants sympathizers, and the local media down here is what pointed it out to me. I follow JP Finley and John Keim, who are the beat writers for ESPN and NBC Sports for Washington. And they shared JP Finley actually shared the tweet of a couple of different Giants beat writers, Giants fans, Giants personalities who have said Shane and Dable should be ashamed of the product they're putting on the field this year. So I ask you, is this for Giants fans, right, who all got excited about last year they made the playoffs? Is this just the Giants regressing to the mean because they weren't a good team last year and they found ways to win games? Is this just them kind of coming back to fucking normal? They paid Daniel Jones. What are you doing?
I picked him to be a wild card.
Yeah, I know you did.
I don't feel that way anymore.
I hope you don't.
No, they are the Vikings. they did the two teams did similar things last year.
Yeah.
They really did, like winning against all odds because they had a very low differential. So I thought this team would be a little better than that. I thought they could win some games. They obviously didn't win games. And now I have to watch them in primetime every fucking week, and it makes me sick. So we had them week 1. We had them week 2. We didn't have them week 3. We had them week 4. And then I think we get them week 6. Something like that. We get the Giants a whole bunch of times in prime time, and I get it. It's the New York market, and it's a team that made the playoffs last year, and they've got to get their in. But holy shit, are we being persecuted? Persecuted is the best way I can think to describe this. I don't know, like Jesus on the cross a couple days, like that was a fucking bath, bed, and beyond vacation, with the pedicure and the fucking foam bath and all that. That is what that is in comparison to what we're getting with having to watch the Giants week in and week out on prime time. I lost you there for a second, Gary, so I was going a little.
I appreciate you.
I went a little. Listen, I got some fans were like, "What the fuck happened?" So yeah, no, the Giants. I'm out on you, dude. I don't want to see in primetime ever again, but I'm gonna. Keeps happening. It's gonna happen more. The primetime games too. Actually, while we're here, the primetime games this year have failed.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of primetime games that are bad.
Yep.
Some of them have been okay. But we have had, and hate to say it, Gary, for you, but we're coming up on a Thursday Commanders-Bears game. That's
nobody wants to watch that.
No. I mean, listen, they thought they did coming in, and that's always the thing with making the schedule is you get games you think you want to say. I don't think the Monday game was any good either, right?
Nope.
What was the Monday? What do we got? Packers-Raiders.
Yeah.
Are we going to be bored? I mean,
yeah.
Listen, maybe the one redeeming trait is the Packers, not the Packers, the Bears Commanders game could be interesting.
It could be tight.
Next week we're getting Chiefs. We're getting Chiefs Broncos on Thursday next week. That's not going to be interesting.
That's going to be a fucking boat race.
This game this week, at least maybe it's a good game. I don't know.
Could be tight down the stretch. If
you
survive
fourth quarter, like we don't. I mean, you might have a fucking Sam Howell, Justin Fields
shootout.
This game might be 30-30 before we know it.
I love your optimism.
Neither team can defend.
What's that?
Neither team can defend.
Yeah.
We might get it.
Jack Del Rio is probably going to forget that Justin Fields is a running back in a quarterback's body, so that's probably fair to say. Listen, I'm gonna trot around a little bit because I did this in baseball this year coincidentally with two New York teams, and I did it again with the Giants. At least so far, right? We're only a quarter of the way through the season. They could certainly, if they find a way to turn it around, they could prove me wrong, right? But I watched the Mets and the Yankees last year win a whole lot of games on a whole lot of fucking like unicorn farts and duct tape and then flame out in the playoffs, looked like shit in the playoffs, right? The Giants did the same thing, except they stole a win against the Vikings, and everybody's like, oh, man, they won a playoff game last year. Yeah, but did you see what the Vikings did against the Giants last year, right? They were fucking awful. They were not a playoff team in that playoff game against the Giants last year, and I said it before this season. I said it in the offseason when they signed Daniel Jones that they were basically signing away their fate, right? He's fucking not good at football.
Trash.
Saquon Barkley's hurt. What's that?
Trash.
Yeah. Saquon Barkley's hurt, so their biggest weapon is gone. They have no wide receivers to fucking speak of. I don't know why they signed Darren Waller because all they do is treat him as a fucking offensive tackle. They have not figured out how to get him the ball yet, who is one of the most dangerous tight ends in fucking football. So this is not a good team. And this is the product you get when a not good team doesn't get every lucky bounce that they got last year. I don't know how many times I watched the Giants game, because they're always on fucking TV, no matter if they're bad or not, where they would get like 4 turnovers that they probably shouldn't have gotten because like the ball bounced one way instead of the other or whatever. Like it was a lot of just magic and fairy fucking dust, and they won a lot of tight games late. And this is who they are. This is who they are. They're not a good football team. They're a bottom 5 roster. They were a bottom 5 roster last year, and they just got really lucky in a lot of games last year. So far, knock on wood, right? So far, I've been right about the Giants. I was right about the Yankees. I was right about the Mets for the same reason, and it seems like it's playing out the same way with the Jets. They're the Giants. They weren't a good football team last year. Very fortunate, and it's showing up this year. All right, let's get to the most important part of the episode. As a veteran-owned podcast, we dedicate every episode to a fallen service member in our segment we like to call our Folds of Honor Salute to Service. All right, this episode goes out to Specialist Ryan Riley, who died April 20th, 2019, serving during Operation Freedom Sentinel. Riley died at the age of 22. He hailed from Richmond, Kentucky. He passed away in Nineveh Province, Iraq. He was assigned to 2nd Battalion, 32nd Field Artillery Regiment, 1st Brigade Combat Team, 101st Airborne Division out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Specialist Ryan Riley, we have the watch. All right. So now we try to make this transition over to week 5. So let's talk about the upcoming week. And as you mentioned a moment ago, Bears, Commanders, Thursday night. We've got a lock alert. I'll jump in here real quick because this is my lock alert. I've got Bears plus 5.5. I do think Washington wins the game, right? I picked them to win, but I laid it out a little bit to you earlier, and I just want to continue to kind of build on that, right? I talked about Ron coming into games not prepared. If you remember last year, the worst Thursday night game that ended up like a super exciting finish last year was Washington versus Chicago. It ended on a tackle / pass breakup against Darnell Mooney at the 1-yard line in a 1-score game. I do think that it's going to end up very similarly this year because Ron cannot get this team ready to beat up on bad teams. I'll reference week 1 against Arizona this year, where I said, if this team doesn't blow out Arizona because they are tanking and they are trying to build through the draft in coming years, whether that's with Kyler Murray or with Caleb Williams, this is going to be a long season. And it has proven that way with laying an egg against Buffalo, laying an egg in the second half against Philly. This team doesn't leave the locker room prepared to play games. So I fully anticipate what's going to happen Thursday night is we're going to come out. Chicago's going to score on their opening drive. We're going to be playing from behind the 8 ball. It'll be 9-6 at half. And Washington ends up winning this game like 16-12 or 14-12, something along those lines. It's not a well-prepared team. It's not a well-coached team. Jack Del Rio, if this game is a high-scoring affair, it's going to be a one-sided high-score affair. It's going to be Chicago just running all over us because that's Justin Fields and Jack Del Rio doesn't prepare. So I did pick Washington, but give me the points with Chicago because this Commanders team is not a team that blows anybody out.
I've got nothing for you. I hope you're wrong.
Yeah. Maybe someday, eventually. When we hire Ben Johnson, maybe.
No, you're not.
Buffalo, Jacksonville. We're talking about a Jacksonville team that's really struggled out the gate this year. We thought they were going to be better than they are. There's a lot of talent there still, obviously. But the last 2 weeks for me have made this kind of a demonstrable win for Buffalo. The number, I believe, is 6.5. I was tempted to make that a lock, but I hesitated a little bit because I do believe that Jacksonville still has the ability to play well against these good teams. Maybe they keep it to a one-score game and keep it below 7, but I've got Buffalo. I just think the last 2 weeks have showed me a lot about Buffalo and how Josh Allen's taking better care of the football. He's going to be the best Josh Allen in this game.
It's 5.5. So
okay.
Close.
Okay.
I expect. I don't know, man. I'm leaning. I keep leaning. I picked Buffalo. I'm staying with Buffalo, but like Jacksonville's the home team at this point. They've been there a whole week.
Aaron might be
right. They've been there a whole week. They live there. They've been to the pubs. They've seen Big Ben. They're hanging out. The Bills are the guests at this point.
Yep.
This could be. Listen, Jacksonville can beat you. So maybe this is it. I've still picked the Bills. I did not want to pick the lock because of that reason.
Yeah.
Might be a field goal.
It could be. Yeah, the international piece was another thing I considered. I forgot to bring up as well. That's a good point by you, right? Like Jacksonville never left. They just stayed over there because they had 2 straight games in England. So that's going to be.
Nobody wants to be in Jacksonville. It sucks.
I don't think it's too far astray. I just want to make a quick point, and maybe if you've got a counterpoint or an additional thought, that's the formula. If we're going to expand to Europe, that's the formula, right? It's 2 in a row, and you're playing over there and whatnot, right? That's the formula. Because traveling a single week over there too often during a season, especially like divisional foes and whatnot, it's too much.
Right? Makes no sense. Just keep Atlanta or somebody, Chicago,
right?
Like keep them over there,
right?
We don't need them,
right? Exactly. One of those things we don't fucking need.
Titans, let them hang out for a month.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we'll have a tight game. I think it's going to be close. I do think the Bills pull it out. Yeah. All right. Another lock alert. Say that again.
5.5 can be close. I think we're right on pace.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Houston, Atlanta, we've got another lock alert. We are all in lockstep, but Andy, this is one of your lock alerts for the week.
We're underdogs this week, right?
We are underdogs this week.
I don't know. Atlanta's getting 2 points because they're at home.
Yeah.
Gary, you've said it repeatedly. Worst roster in the NFL.
Yep.
We're talking about the Texans coming off a beating of the Steelers, right? We're looking at C.J. Stroud looking like a good NFL quarterback, which Desmond Ridder is still not.
And they've already announced that Ridder is starting this game too. They're not going to Heineke.
Have at it, pal. Have at it, champ. That's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's see if it works out for him.
Listen, I think the Texans are the better team, and not only do I think they win, but they obviously cover because it's 2. So yeah, I mean, the Texans win is a cover for me, and that's what I fully expect.
Atlanta doesn't win games by a lot. Atlanta wins by a Young-Ho coup field goal at the end of games where they win by 1, right? So even if Atlanta ekes this out, they're going to win by 1 point. But I'm with you. I've got Houston money line. If I was wagering this, I'm putting Houston money line out there. They're the better team. They're playing better defense. They're playing better offense. Yeah. I'm in. I don't like Atlanta. I don't like their roster construction. I don't like the way Arthur Smith runs that team. I don't like their game plan from week to week. So give me Houston, man. Give me Houston money line. I would almost go out on a limb to say like that could be a lock this week. I am betting it. So if you want to follow me at all, right? If you want to tell me, I'm betting money line Houston against Atlanta. You're getting some juice. It's like plus 115. So you're getting some juice. Take the juice, in my opinion. All right. Detroit, Carolina. I don't think there's any real questions here. Andy, what sort of win do you want to see from Detroit? Because I've gone as far as to say, like, I think they're in that conversation with the other three teams in the NFC to say maybe this team is a potential Super Bowl contender. What do they need to win by here against Carolina to kind of put that stamp on it to say we're here, this is our division, and we're coming for the conference, the way we talked about with the Bills?
They just need to win. Just win. That's it. Carolina spoiled the party last year. Yeah. Carolina spoiled the party last year. That was the game going into the last several that spoiled it. Foreman and company, who's not there anymore, rushed for about 9,000 yards against the Lions. They couldn't stop shit. Now we're working with the best run defense in the NFL. So, Miles Sanders, I don't think there's anything to worry about there. I think this is a potential trap game, though. Detroit comes out at 9. I think they started at 8.5 is the favorite. Now they're at 9. That's the best they've started since 2017 against anyone. So, there's the potential for that blow up there. But, yeah, I mean, this should just be a smooth win. You win by 10 points probably. I think 10 points is fair. You get a touchdown, a field goal in there, and, Bryce and company, Adam Thielen, these guys aren't that good. They know they're not that good. They're not playing to be that good. Detroit is – coming in to be, we're a playoff team, you're not. We have to set that tone, and that's exactly what they have to do. That's it. I mean, no more, no less.
Yeah, and you don't look at this as like a trap game because they've got a big divisional foe next week because they play the Buccaneers next week. But is this a team that, if you're smelling yourself a little bit, do you overlook this team, right? You don't want to think that they're going to, right? But sometimes that can happen, especially with young teams. You can kind of feel what the media is talking about you. And potentially, right, it could be a trap game for that reason. Yep. All right, Tennessee in Indy. I'm on Tennessee. You're on Indy. Raul's on Indy. I'm on the island here, and I'll lay out why. I look at what Tennessee did last week defensively against, and obviously limited Joe Burrow, but they shut down Joe Mixon as well. Derrick Henry got back to form last week. He wasn't the mutant necessarily, but he was some form of that last week against a pretty good Cincinnati defense. Indianapolis, I don't think Indianapolis's defense is better than Cincy's. So I expect Derrick Henry will continue that this week, and that really is what sets the tone for this Tennessee offense. Ryan Tannehill has been one of the best play-action quarterbacks during his career in the NFL. And when the running game's not working, he is demonstrably worse, right? So he needs the play. Not only is he good in the play action, he needs the play action. I expect after the Rams ran the ball well against Indy last week that Tennessee is going to have similar success this week. And that's why I still think Anthony Richardson's raw. I think he's a freak athlete, but still raw. And I think Tennessee's defense can still give you some problems up front. So for those reasons, I think that this is Tennessee's game to kind of just say, hey, we're not done yet in this division.
I picked the home team.
That's fair.
That's it.
All right. Hey, fair point. All right, Miami, New York, we are unanimous. This has to be a bounce-back game for Miami, right? Because
do you want me to explain this one?
No, I don't want you to explain it. But this has to be a bounce-back game, though, for Miami after that shellacking at the hands of the Bills last week, because the Giants in home games this year have been outscored like 68-3 or something silly like that in the first halves of games. And then they've not been good altogether. But I know they're on the road against Miami. Miami's tough at home. That offense should get going. We've seen the Cardinals gash them. We've seen the Cowboys gash them. And we watched Seattle finally figure out how to gash them Monday night. It was a slow start, but they finally figured out how to gash them. Miami should put a real stamp on this one, right?
Yeah, they're getting
Otherwise,
11 this week.
Maybe Miami's in trouble.
It's 11 this week. That's the most in the league. It seems fitting. They're probably going to win by a couple touchdowns.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Bounce back week for Miami, and the Giants are bad. Yeah, Aaron, that's a fair point, right? Going back to the Tennessee game, man, they're a very Jekyll and Hyde kind of team. Especially the last 2 years, they've been that way. You used to be able to kind of rely on what they were, right? Early Vrabel days, but not anymore. Yeah, that's a good point. New Orleans, New England. This is a battle of like two teams I'm out on because I've been in on New England for the first 4 weeks of the season, and it's burnt me a couple of times. And I was in on New Orleans at the beginning of the season as the winner in the NFC South. What this really boiled down to for me was how many turnovers the Patriots have committed this year. And I think that New Orleans defense is going to be just opportunistic enough in this game. This was kind of a coin flip. It's two shitty teams.
Agreed.
I gave the Patriots too much credit coming into the season.
Two bad offenses that can play defense.
Yeah.
I just picked the one that was at home.
Yeah, that's fair. Baltimore, Pittsburgh. Raul is on the Pittsburgh bandwagon here. I've been on Pittsburgh all season. I am officially out on Pittsburgh as well. That offense is so bad. So bad. Boy. So give me Baltimore, even though it's in Pittsburgh. This is going to be a smash mouth game, I think. If it's a blowout, Baltimore probably runs away. If Lamar is figuring it out, right? If last week was a sign that he's getting right. But no, Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm taking the advice from the Pittsburgh fans, and we're out.
Yeah, New Orleans against New England. We could say the same thing maybe about Baltimore, Pittsburgh. It's always a smash mouth game. But yeah, New England, New Orleans is probably going to be like a 15-13 game, maybe something along those lines. Unless there's defensive touchdowns like there were against Dallas this past week. Cincy, Arizona. If there's any hope for Cincy, they have to win this. They're at 1-3 right now. The division has a 3-1 team, and it's going to get late really early if you lose to Arizona this coming weekend, right?
I keep picking Cincinnati every week, and I feel sick about it.
I know.
I feel unshowered every time it happens.
I know.
Like,
I almost picked Arizona because I'm just like, I don't know if I trust. They're my Super Bowl pick.
I did too, man, because it's like forever unclean. I feel fucking gross every time I pick the Bengals because they just keep doing what they're doing. But I keep telling myself, well, they got to win it. So, look,
they'll figure out eventually.
They can't go 0-2. They can't go 0-3. They can't be the fucking worst team in the NFC. Like soon, I'm just gonna be like, oh, they can't lose every single game this season. This is put up or shut up time, right?
Yep.
Not even for them, for just like everybody picking them every week. It's gotten ridiculous. I don't know what to say other than they have to win.
They have to. It's fucking Arizona, man. You can't lay an egg this week. All right, Philly and the Rams. I'm going to be up front. I waffled on this a bit because LA's playing pretty good. Philly is not the boogeyman anymore. And I do think that some of the things that Washington had success on last week lay a bit of the blueprint for beating Philly. Washington didn't do it well enough. They didn't commit to it long enough. And defensively, they kind of floundered when they came out in the second half. I don't expect the same from the Rams because they've got that fucking freak on the front there in Aaron Donald who can absolutely collapse any pocket he's ever fucking seen. I waffled. In the end, I think that Philly has enough playmakers that it's going to be one of those kind of games where they kind of win this thing late. I think it'll be a one-score affair. I've got Philly edging the Rams here.
I actually kind of went back and forth a little bit too.
Yeah.
As much as I'm not sure how we got here, but yeah, the Rams have played good football. Philly has played. I mean, for being undefeated, they're playing okay football. So yeah, I mean, let's give the Rams their stripes a little bit here and see what we have. I expect Philly to win, but it might be close.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do want to talk about this actually. I'm glad you brought it up, Aaron, because I want to talk about this brotherly shove, right?
It's gonna work.
So what's that?
It's gonna work.
Yeah, but it works.
Works
It
against
works
anyone. It doesn't matter.
It works for some unique reasons, and I didn't notice them until this weekend when on the Washington broadcast they talked about the fact that the Washington coaches actually did something right for a change. They went to the officials ahead of time and said, "Listen, the left guard lines up offside every time they do a quarterback sneak, right?" Or I think they said the guards, but the left guard got called for an offside on the first attempt at a brotherly shove in this game. They called him offside. They brought the ball back, right? And I was like, holy fuck, Ron fucking did something right, right? So then I come back and they did another one later in the game. And I got to the house after Tatum's soccer game. And I said, like, I'm going to pay attention to them lining up offside. Well, he lined up. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He lined up almost perfectly with the center, right? But he jumped offside. He false started by like a fucking whole half count, and it didn't get called. And then I'm watching that brotherly shove, and 3 players are not shoving him in the back. They are all hugging and carrying him over the pile of players.
Yeah,
so
they do it every time.
They have figured out all of the loopholes with this play. And more credit to them, fine, right? Let's give them credit and say, like, fine. But, like, it feels, like you just said, like, picking Cincinnati makes you feel unclean. Like, watching Philly run the fucking tush push feels super unclean.
Yeah,
because they're doing a play that's bullshit to begin with. It was outlawed for fucking 70 years in the league. It was outlawed. They finally legalized it for open field plays. Philly's figured out a loophole with that, and they're doing actually illegal shit. The rule still reads you cannot wrap around the offensive player and move him.
Yeah, no, they're carrying. Yeah. They're not only carrying him, the quarterback. Yeah. They're wrapping the lineman from behind.
They're just hugging everything, and
it's insane. It's ugly to watch. I call it the army tank every time I see it. I'm like, that's a fucking army tank. It's unstoppable. Yeah. That is like if you met man 5,000 years ago and you had a fucking army tank.
Yeah.
There's nothing they can do.
They can't do anything. Yep.
You can't stop it.
Yeah, it's like Persian.
How successful was that last season?
33 of 34, I believe.
What's the percent on that?
90, 96, something like that. 97. Silly. Silly, dude. Silly.
I mean, just fucking, the percent of the time I know Donald Trump is lying to the American public. Like, it's ridiculous. I don't.
Yeah, it's one of those. Listen, I don't fault them, okay? Because I've always been of the belief that, like, it's on the refs to call it. It's how the Boom, the Legion of Boom got away with all of the things they got away with. They just did it, and they just said, "Oh, the refs aren't going to call it every time," and they were right? So, like with Philly, the refs called it once. The guard moves back a little bit, but he still jumps offside. He wasn't close either. Like, he was so far offside, he hit the defender while his hand was still in the dirt. So, like, let's think about what we're doing here. It's fine and dandy to shove from behind, but because that's legal within the rules. But god damn it, dude, you can't tell me that the ref behind the play doesn't see these fucking bear hugs. You're not gonna tell me they don't. It's crazy. Anyway, onward and upward.
I mean, it's like Jawan Taylor.
Yeah. He
I
was
mean,
fucking
I
8 yards in the
I don't
backfield
fault
and
the
false
guy.
starting.
Right. We don't fault the guy for doing it. We fault the
Refs for not catching
institution
it.
that lets it happen.
Absolutely. All right, moving on. We've got another lock alert here, Andy.
Yeah.
We got Jets. We got Dolphins. Jets are +2.
Let it run.
Let it run.
Let
the underdog breathe.
I mean, I don't know how we're giving the Jets negative points against the Broncos. Or sorry.
Right. We're giving them
positive points against them.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. It's in Denver. We have the aspect of playing in the thin air, whatever. I just think Denver is bad at defense. They're okay at offense. The Jets thrive in the defensive department, and I think the Jets are the better team. I don't trust Denver.
Yeah.
And for 2, give it to me all day, because I think the Jets are not only going to cover, I think they're going to win the game.
Yeah, I'm with you. Money line here on the Jets. That defense is gonna they're gonna wreak havoc on this bad Broncos offense. And then I do give a little bit of credence to what I saw Sunday night from Zach Wilson. I think that he looked like a guy who started to feel comfortable. He was still not quite that guy. The throw to Garrett Wilson where he made that incredible catch on the sideline, it shouldn't have been that kind of catch. He missed him, and Garrett Wilson made up for it, right? So, like, the good with the bad, okay? I like how comfortable Zach Wilson looked, but then there was throws like that, right? And I know there was a couple more where he just flat out missed the receiver, but Garrett Wilson's a fucking freak and made that catch along the sideline. It was an unbelievable catch. It shouldn't have been that. It should have been pass the sticks, hit him in stride, first down throw. That's an easy throw for most NFL quarterbacks, right? That's a throw like in high school I would get yelled at if I missed it, right, by my coach. You're an NFL quarterback. You should be hitting that. But I do like that he felt like he was in charge of the offense. And I think that goes a long way in a huddle, and that can help the guys around you make you better, right? So I'm with you. I love this as a lock. You sent it, and I was like, oh man, I was looking at that, right? I'm back up broing the lock here on the Jets +2. It's the way the Broncos have played this year and the way the Jets have played this year. It feels disrespectful that the Jets are getting points in this game. They should have been laying like 2.5, maybe 3.5. To be honest, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I don't get it. All right. Moving on, we've got another lock alert here. Chiefs, Vikings. I actually have +5.5 for the Vikings here in this game. Feels like too many points. Vikings always play a lot of close games. Actually, let me double check that number because now I don't think that was the right number. Hold on.
It's -4.5.
4.5. Okay. +4.5 for the Vikings. Give me the 4.5. KC's -4.5. Right?
Hold on.
Let me check ESPN. Yeah, I've got KC minus. ESPN's got it -5 right now, but 4.5, 5.
-5.
Yeah, but give me the Vikings. I'll take those points. They play tight games. Kansas City's not been the dominating force so far this year. I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair. I actually almost got cute and introduced the over/under to this lock alert segment and said over 53. I think this is going to be like a 28-26, 28-27 type of game. Minnesota might have the ball late with a chance to take the lead, and Kansas City's defense makes a stop. Give me those 5 points, 4.5 points with the Vikings. I'm locking this one in. It's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a fun game to watch. I think we're going to see a little bit of offense finally because Minnesota's defense is not good, and I think Minnesota can move the ball against good defenses. So I think we're going to see a pretty high scoring affair here, but it's going to be a field goal game at the most. It's not in prime time here, so we're safe. We're safe. 4:25 kickoff. We're safe.
That's where you're checking every time.
Yep, absolutely. I get it. Cowboys Niners. So this is a matchup of two teams that you have to feel like both have Super Bowl aspirations, right? The Cowboys have a Super Bowl defense. I don't think they have a Super Bowl offense because Dak is still their quarterback. I think how you view the Cowboys offense has a lot to do with how you view their quarterback. I have a negative view of their quarterback because I watch him play and he makes a lot of really bad decisions. But that defense is the real deal. But they're going against a team that has a Super Bowl caliber defense and a Super Bowl caliber offense, and the game's in San Francisco. For me, I think that's the edge. You're looking at probably maybe a 4-point. I think this will be a tighter game. I think Dallas is going to be able to neutralize a little bit because they've got a lot of speed on that defense. They're going to be able to neutralize some of the things that San Francisco does with McCaffrey and Debo. But if Ayuk gets loose, they may miss Trayvon Diggs pretty bad. What do you think here?
This should be the game of the week, right?
Yeah, it's America's game of the week. It is.
Yeah, I mean,
it'll be on everybody's TV set.
Yeah, beyond America's game of the week, this should be our game of the week. And speaking of, in terms of NFL fans, this should be our game of the week.
Everybody should be.
Two of the better teams in the NFL, two of the better teams, maybe the best teams in the NFC.
I don't know how this didn't end up in prime time, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, this should be an absolute treat. It probably won't be because we're expecting that.
That's how it always happens, right?
And, we'll see what happens. I mean, I hope it is because we all want to see that. But let's see, man. Let's see how good the Cowboys are. Let's see how good San Fran is. This is really the game to test your mettle, right? I mean, go in there, come out. I mean, somebody's going to look awesome. Somebody's going to look maybe a little flat. All they need is Swift. Jesus.
You get T. Sweezy to date CeeDee Lamb or something, right?
Oh, shit.
No, you're absolutely right? Like, this is America's game of the week in terms of the media, the TV, but also, this is the game of the week on the schedule. Without a doubt. It's a rivalry game. It's been a rivalry since the 90s, right? They went head-to-head fucking every year in the playoffs. And that's maintained its sense of, rivalry. But it's also two of the four best teams in the NFC, right? And it's two teams that have Super Bowl aspirations. It's two teams with fan bases that are very boisterous and like to voice that they're the best team. It's gonna be a good game. It's gonna be a good game. I'm really interested to see how this San Francisco offense stacks up against a Dallas defense that's turned the ball over quite a bit. San Francisco's been really cautious with the ball, but if Dallas can get to Purdy's shown that he's kind of break-proof, right? He's kind of unbreakable, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
We're gonna find out.
Yeah, we're gonna find out. This is gonna be a fun one to watch, kind of how these two teams stack up for sure. And then we've got Green Bay and the Raiders finishing off. Oh, I'm an idiot. I still had the 4:00 window on my brain from the Chiefs game, but this is a primetime game. This is the Sunday night game, San Fran and Dallas. So rightfully so in primetime. Anyway, my folly aside, Green Bay and the Raiders finishing out the week for us on Monday night. What are you looking forward to with this game, other than the name brand recognition, right? Because that's what makes this a primetime game. Right. It's the name brand, it's the fan bases. But
I'm looking forward to Green Bay getting smashed. That's it. That's all I care about. Fuck them. I don't want them to win. I don't like them. I don't want to like them. Every time I think about liking them, I get sick. No, I think Green Bay is going to win the game, though. I think Jordan
Yeah.
Love is on the right path. He's got Watson, he's got Dobbs. So, these are decent players. Aaron Jones, I think, is going to come back after the last week was a little bit of fool's gold, I believe. He wasn't quite there.
Yeah.
So we'll see him this week against a much worse rush defense.
Yeah.
The Raiders, what do I say? Is Jimmy G ready? Is he going?
They haven't announced
I don't
yet
know.
that he's
Is Adams ready? Is he going? He hurt his shoulder. I don't know.
Initial reports are that he wouldn't miss time. He did come back in the game, but that adrenaline sometimes when it wears off.
A lot of these guys don't miss time. I think this is a Green Bay win. Unfortunately, for me as a Lions fan,
you want to be wrong about this one.
I do think that's where we're at.
Yeah. The Raiders have taken a precipitous step backward from the interim head coach that took them to the promised land against Brandon Staley's Los Angeles Chargers with the idiotic timeout at the end of regulation, which got the Raiders into the playoffs. And Rich Bisaccia, who should have remained as the head coach there in Vegas, got the shaft in the offseason. And they went and hired Josh McDaniels, who has now ruined another roster after ruining the roster in Denver when he was the head coach and / GM there. This Raiders team is bad. This Raiders team lacks talent. They're not good on the offensive line. They're not good on the defensive line other than Max Crosby. Their defensive secondary is a ghost town. I expect Jordan Love to have a big game this week. If Jimmy G plays, we might see a little bit of a shootout because I think he runs that offense much better, obviously, than the rookie. And they've been able to score some points this year. But I think Jordan Love could have a big game because that's not a very good Raiders defense at all.
Agreed.
If you're playing daily fantasy, maybe Jordan Love's a sneaky pick at an affordable rate. All right. Well, we made it. It only took 2 hours to get here, but we made it. We knew it was going to be a longer show. But I appreciate you, man. We had some good conversation, hit some good points. We had some good sidebars. Raul will probably rein us back in next week.
Fucking mom will be back.
Yeah, mom will be back in town. What closing thoughts you got for me this week, man?
My biggest closing thought is we're through 4 weeks.
Yep.
I think we're into real football.
Yep.
So everybody get ready. Pace yourselves. Figure it out. Your team may be 0-3. We see some of you going into week 4. The Vikings were there.
Yep.
The Chargers were there. We might have some contending teams jumping up from here on out. So, strap in. It's a long season. This is the time. We got bye weeks now.
Yeah. We get the first bye weeks this week. You're absolutely right? The first quarter poll, I think, is when we can really start to say, now we're playing football. Especially with the abbreviated preseason and the unwillingness of a lot of coaches to play their starters in the preseason. McVay, I think, was kind of the first pioneer of I'm just not playing anybody in the preseason. And a lot of teams have jumped on that bandwagon. So first couple weeks are goofy. We've talked about how it's always goofy, but it's even more goofy now with the way that teams treat preseason. This is the point of the season where we start to kind of figure it out. And those teams that are playing well right now, you're looking at creating momentum now in the second quarter of the season and saying, we have some staying power. We are here to stay. We are here to compete for division titles. We mentioned it with a couple of teams, but this is the time. And we've got a really big measuring stick game this week with San Francisco and Dallas, right? And we're going to continue to get more each week as we go because we start to learn more about teams as the season goes on. This is the first big one, right? We've had a couple of like, oh yeah, these teams should be good this year. Nice matchup. This is the real deal, right? Week 5. We know what San Francisco is. We think we know what Dallas is. Let's figure it out, right? So, all right, bud. Hey, man, I appreciate you. Good episode. Appreciate all the participation in the chat, Aaron, Dad. Really appreciate all the comments. Makes it interesting. Yeah, bye weeks. I know the players are bigger fans than we are as fans, right? We want to see them guys out there every week, but the players love their bye weeks for sure. But anyway, for everybody here at Backyard Sports, been a great episode. Appreciate y'all. We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. We are out.